Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
I'm Matt Miller.
And I'm Hannah Elliott, and this is Hot Pursuit.
All right, we have a double feature for you
This
today.
is our first, I think.
It is kind of. Like last week we had our Toto Wolff podcast and then the bonus episode.
Yes.
I don't know if you noticed that. We put out a bonus episode on our trip to France for the 24 Hours of Le Mans.
Yes.
This week...
I didn't know that.
Yeah, we did. See, I knew you wouldn't. That's why I said. I knew you wouldn't know it.
I was thinking, do I tell him I don't actually know that we did that?
I knew it. So I think a lot of our listeners might have missed it too. But yes. So we put out a TV special. It's also on YouTube. It's on Bloomberg.com, but it's on wherever you get your podcasts as well. You can just listen to it. Today, we have two pretty incredible guests. One is the producer of Top Gun. As well
is that
as,
your go-to for Bruckheimer? Is that your instant?
I think it's his most famous.
Not Days of Thunder, not Gone in 60 Seconds.
I mean, Armageddon is probably my favorite movie that he's done.
It's unbelievable, everything that he's been a part of. And he's 81, and he is sharp. Yes.
Oh, my goodness.
He is dialed in. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, he's pretty cool. So you and I got to sit down with him on his satellite media tour, so not with him, but on the same kind of radio waves, and talk about his new movie, F1 the Movie. We actually just sat down with Toto Wolff for an hour as well for our podcast, and he sends you his best and said he's really impressed by the realism of the film. Tell us how important that was to you to get it right from a realism aspect.
Well, it's really important. I mean, we did it with Top Gun Maverick. We want to do it again with F1. It was a 4-year process to get this thing off the ground and in the right way. It took almost a year to make F1 comfortable with what we were doing. That was really part of our journey to make sure that Stefano, what happened is Brad, myself, and Joe Kosinski, who directed the movie, flew to London and sat down with Stefano and said, here's the movie we want to make. We want to make sure that they actually drive the cars, our actors. And how do we get this done? Fortunately, we had Lewis Hamilton as a partner. He was terrific. He's one of the producers on the movie. He made sure that we got it right. But that creates a problem because you have Lewis Hamilton, who's at the time in Mercedes, and they have this huge rivalry with Red Bull. So Red Bull for sure was going to be the villain in their mind. So it took us almost a year to get all these teams comfortable and drivers comfortable that we're going to tell a story about our two drivers. And F1, which has 10 teams, 2 drivers to each team, but it's the only sport in the world where your teammate is also your competitor. So everybody wants to be the number one driver. So how do we navigate this with all these teams and make sure the FIA is comfortable? And it took us a year, but we got there, and we got unprecedented access to the tracks, to the drivers. We interviewed everybody. I don't know if you've seen the movie, but everything you see in the movie is accurate. Happened at one time during F1 over the last 75 years, some of the things, the antics that the drivers have pulled. But the fact that Brad and Damson took 4 months off to get in these cars, and we started them in a road car, put them in an F4 car, put them in an F3 car, and finally got them into our car, which was built and created by Mercedes, as I said earlier.
Jerry, we've seen Formula One really grow in popularity in the U.S., especially in the last few years. What about motorsport is so compelling to you personally, but also to viewers?
Well, I grew up in Detroit, so that's Motor City. So right away, I'm interested in cars to begin with. It's ingrained in my DNA. But that sport is, and I really didn't know much about F1 until I saw Drive to Survive. And it was really Joe Kosinski who came up with the story and came to me after we finished F1. He said, we should make this movie about this extraordinary sport. So I think that, as I said, the first call we really made was to Lewis and say, come on in. And one of the prerequisites for the story to get Brad involved, he said, I have to drive. I'm not going to make a movie that's going to be green screen and process. So they took the energy and time to spend 4 months driving these cars.
How much of a problem was his age? Because we're seeing these
kids driving Formula One that are, I mean, Kimmy's 18 years old, right? So Brad Pitt has to be at least as old as me. He's in the second half of his century. How did you overcome that?
Take a look at him. He doesn't look like it. He looks amazing. He takes care of himself. He worked out. Listen, when he wasn't on the track, he was in the gym working out to make sure he could handle the rigors of this sport. It's so difficult to drive these cars. And, you know, they're in Singapore. It's over 100 degrees. Most will be 120 in those cars. They're exhausted. So Brad and Damson trained off the track, and then they drove. So they were in really good shape by the time we started the movie, so they could handle the brutality of what these cars throw you through. You're going in 5Gs in some of these corners. But, you know, Toto and Christian, all these team principles really helped us, Fred, Zach, to create a story that's accurate. And we interviewed everybody. I don't know if you've seen the movie, but this whole thing with the socks, where he has two mismatched socks, that came from Williams, who told us that one of their drivers came to the track and had two mismatched socks, and the first time he ever won a race. So he did that from there on. There's a lot of them are superstitious. We use that in the movie. This was a great experience for me because we're so lucky. We get dropped into a world we'll never be a part of and live that life, in this instance, for 4 years. And that's what we do for an audience. We drop you into a world, which is F1, which is really exciting, and make you feel what it's really like to be an F1 driver and be part of an F1 team. And that takes you on a journey. This movie is so immersive between the sound, the visuals, but it's always about the emotion. It's not about all the bells and whistles. And you don't have to know anything about driving or know anything about F1 to really enjoy this movie. And in fact, most people who come into this film, especially from this country, don't know very little about F1, but by the time they leave, they're interested in the sport. They feel they've had an amazing ride, and because we've transported them into another place, another time, and they feel a part of that experience.
Jerry, obviously, we've had some other great driving and racing films in the past. Of course, Steve McQueen made one or two. Ford versus Ferrari was pretty popular. Were there films that you referred to either as a do this or don't do that when you were creating this film?
I think, you know, Joe and Brad and everybody looked at all those movies and they learned from them. And what's interesting is the technology that they had versus the technology that we have is so different. I mean, our cameras are a third the size of what we use in Top Gun, and we had 6 of those in the cockpit. Now it's even smaller. We had 15 camera positions on our car. You only could use 4 at a time. And it was even harder for our guys to drive than the real drivers, because they had 4 cameras staring at them all the time. So they had to look around these cameras while they were driving the movie. We also created a special type of camera that we didn't have at Top Gun, which is a remote control camera, which can pan and move as we're going 180 miles an hour. So we had to build antennas are all around the track to be able to use this remote camera. So that adds to the excitement and the thrill of the movie. What we're trying to do is be seamless, so you don't realize that we're actually making the movie, that you're following the story, you're excited by it, and then you're in that F1 car with our characters.
Jerry, I have not gotten a chance to see it yet. When I do, I'm going to make sure and see it in a theater, because I want that experience of the big screen. I want the Dolby Atmos playing all around me. How important is it to you that people see your films in the theater as opposed to on streaming at home on a TV?
Look, for this movie, you want to see it on the biggest screen possible. You want to go to IMAX. You want to hear that Dolby sound, that Atmos. It's just so experiential to be part of it. It's a thrill. If you want to go and have a thrill for a night with your wife or your girlfriend or your friends, this is the perfect outing. It's something that's gives you a lift, makes you feel good, takes you away from the chaos in the world for over 2 hours. And that's what we try to do. Let's forget about everything. Let's forget about the world. And you get in Brad Pitt's world and Damson's world and Javier Bardem and Carrie Condon, which is a fantastic cast. A lot of Academy Awards in there and nominations in that group. So they're the best of the best. And we had Aaron Kruger write the screenplay, who wrote Top Gun Maverick. So you're going to get the same kind of thrills we gave you in that movie.
Jerry, I have to ask, since you've made this film, are you now a race fan? Are you a Formula fan? And who's your team and who's your driver?
Well, obviously it has to be Lewis. I mean, it can't be anybody else because he's a great friend and a phenomenal driver. And Ferrari was terrific, as was Toto, in making this film. In fact, we have Toto in the movie, and Fred from Ferrari, and Zach are actually in the movie, as a bunch of other Christian. I mean, they're all kind of have moments in the film, as a lot of the drivers do too. So that was fun, just being in their world, and I love it now. I follow it every week.
That was Jerry Bruckheimer. F1 the movie is one that you have seen already, Hannah, and
yes.
I'm going to this afternoon
so
to catch the matinee in the IMAX.
I'm so glad you're going to see it in the IMAX. I think that's the way to go. Yeah, you're going to be. I want you to let me know what you think of it. I hope you like it. I really think you will.
I'm really pumped, and I will say that. So Jerry Bruckheimer's made all these incredible films, and obviously I love Top Gun and Days of Thunder and Armageddon. I love Liv Tyler, but
we all do.
But I don't love those movies that much, right? What I really love is Brad Pitt movies. Like for me, he is, maybe because of my age, like I think he might be my favorite Hollywood star.
Then I'm going to have to say something that I've been trying to hold back and not say, but I'm going to say it to you. I need you to look at Brad's face in this film, and you'll have a lot of opportunities to do so. And I want you to tell me what you think he's done to his face.
Oh, you think he's had some work done?
I think there's some filler action. And that's
a huge bummer.
I know. And I didn't want to talk about this because maybe it's superficial or whatever, but like male movie stars get better when they get older. And I'm just so surprised that he's not being allowed to age.
Well, it's fair enough. Look, people talk about when women get work done. Obviously, we would talk about it if he had ruined his lips, or if
Nicole Kidman's whole journey. We've talked about that for years.
But you're right. Yeah, dudes don't typically do that, or that we know of, or that we talk about, right?
I mean, it's subtle, but his face is different somehow, and I just need you to look at it and tell me, as a self-professed Brad Pitt fan that you just said, because there are no cheekbones there. I just need you to tell me.
That's a real bummer.
After you see it.
I mean, I don't love Brad Pitt because I'm in love with Brad Pitt.
No, I didn't think you were.
I love especially his like the bit roles he does, like True Romance or Burn After Reading.
He's funny.
Yeah,
he's funny.
He is very funny, and it catches you kind of unaware because he looks like this sort of, Thelma and Louise, handsome hunk that's kind of brainless,
he's
he actually has some wit and intelligence that is disarming as well.
I'm sorry, I have to keep on this. What's your favorite Brad Pitt film? Because mine's Fight Club.
I would say Fury, probably. I also love Inglourious Bastards.
Okay. Yeah.
But Fury, I tend to like the sort of spy and war movies. And
did you watch Wolves?
Yes, did not like it.
What did you think? I didn't even finish it.
No.
Apparently, this is a F1 tie-in. Apparently, Apple had considered putting Wolves in theaters and decided not to because I didn't want to risk a poor box office with that film, which I thought was interesting. And of course, Apple Originals created F1 the movie that they did decide to put in theaters. I just think that whole thing is very interesting.
That is. I think Brad Pitt is one of those, like Tom Cruise, where I think he almost hasn't done a bad movie. Mm-hmm. There are, you could say, Cool Runnings, was not great, but Wolves wasn't good.
I didn't even there was not compelling. Mm-mm. I was shocked. Complete sleeper.
But, the main thing I love about Brad Pitt probably isn't his movies, but his love of motorcycles and, his extracurricular hobbies like that. So, but what do I know? I don't.
You know plenty.
I don't.
Yeah.
What I do love and what I have been talking about a lot lately is this Cadillac CT-V Blackwing. I finally got to drive it. It's pretty amazing. And it's pretty shocking that no other automaker in the world is able to produce a big V8 in a 4-door sedan with a stick shift. Only General Motors can do this. Why?
Yeah, and I couldn't believe that Tony actually told us how many they make and told us the take rate on that stick shift and explained why they can't put one in a Corvette.
Yeah.
I mean, he was relatively forthcoming, I thought, actually.
True. So spoiler alert, we're going to talk to Tony Roma, who made the CT-5V Blackwing with a team. I'm sure he would be quick to say. He made the Cadillac Celestiq. Is that how you say it?
I say Celestiq.
Yeah.
You know, like stars, Celestiq.
But you, I guess, were there with him at the launch.
Yes. Yeah. Nice guy.
And now he's taken over from Tad Juchter as the head of Corvette. And he breaks some news with us on Corvette, too, which I think is the biggest headline.
It's a big deal.
So I'm driving this Ram truck today. I just went and picked it up in New Jersey.
Oh.
And it's got the Hurricane 510, which is an inline 6. And it's a fine motor, I guess. It's definitely putting out better numbers, higher horsepower, more torque. It's turbocharged. But it just doesn't feel as good to drive. And the same thing happened when Ford replaced the 6.2-liter V8 in the Raptor with a 3.5-liter turbocharged V6. Like, it had higher horsepower, faster 0 to 60, quicker acceleration, but it just doesn't feel as rewarding.
See, I honestly, Matt, I don't get that. Because, like, if you're saying all of the numbers are improved, what are you not getting other than some sort of just X factor that's in your brain because you know the engine?
No, it's not just that I know it, like, subconsciously.
Yeah.
I can hear it. I can feel
thing.
it. Yeah, it's not doesn't have the kind of warmth or fullness of a V8. It just
But see, now we're getting
isn't
into
as rewarding.
Not that I disagree. I'm just saying, like, this is an interesting thing because now we're getting into sort of qualitative assessments about that car. It's the difference between, all the numbers are better and all the numbers check out, but somehow, and then you start to sound a little woo-woo when you talk about it, but you're talking about, like, warmth and all of these things that are impossible to quantify, but they are real.
You're right. No, you're right. There is one thing that you could probably quantify, which is there's definitely a lag, both in the EcoBoost and in the Hurricane 510. Now, maybe there's a lag in the V8 that I just don't notice as much because it instantly makes more sound and vibrations. But I just, to me, it doesn't matter if it goes 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds or 0 to 60 in 4.5 seconds. And, at some point the numbers get so high that it just isn't useful.
This is what I struggle with when I'm reviewing cars, because when you're writing things down and you're literally showing the numbers, but then it says one thing, but then when you get in the car and drive it, you feel something different, something that might imply numbers aren't everything. It's hard to convince people because until you've driven it, it's like, for instance, with McLarens are kind of perfect cars on paper.
Yep.
And, they're extreme. They're like the tech engineer type of car that type of brain loves. But for whatever reason, I think McLaren has struggled creating a visceral, emotional connection to some of their cars. And I don't know why. I'm not an engineer.
Well, I think it's even happening. So I drove the Carrera GTS, the new 911 that you drove last year in Spain. I finally got.
This is the hybrid. Yes.
So, and it's so good, especially the transmission is so good that you just don't feel anything, Of course, it's way faster. We are going to hear from Tony Roma, who makes the CT-5V Blackwing for Cadillac, or he did, and now he's at Corvette. when I think of the competitors to that car, I think of the BMW M5 that I just recently drove. The M5 is faster, and Tony will say, yeah, the numbers are, with the automatic transmission and the hybrid system are a little bit better. But you don't have the same kind of engagement, obviously, that you have with a manual transmission, which the Cadillac kept. And I'm willing to trade a few tenths every day of the week for more engagement with the vehicle.
Yeah, I know that's true. And it's not a knock on the GTS to say it's too good. Like that's not a problem. It's just an observation that for whatever reason, for what you're right. Do you agree or no?
No, I think it's a problem. I think it's a problem, honestly.
You think I don't think too good is a problem, but you're saying
that's not what I want in a vehicle. Like, okay, it's an amazing car. Would I like to have the 911 Carrera GTS? Yes, I would.
Yes.
But so, for example, you're going to go to Portugal to drive a new Lamborghini, right?
Yes, the Temeraria.
First of all, I'm jealous. But a long time ago, I went to Spain to drive the Aventador, and it had this automatic transmission with paddles that wasn't a dual clutch. And everybody said the car's great, but the transmission's horrible. It was like clunk, 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 and it moved you in your seat. I loved that.
Yeah,
I
it's
loved
personality.
that. When I'm driving the new Carrera GTS and I'm changing gears with a paddle, I feel nothing. It doesn't move me in my seat. It doesn't make a different sound. It's just instantaneous and seamless.
Yeah.
That's what the engineer's shooting for, but that's not what I'm going to pay $190,000 for,
I know. Well, this is getting into the realm, too, of it becomes a little tricky when an automaker starts to make a lot of variants that are all really good and they're kind of forgettable. Yeah. And I don't want to say the GTS is forgettable, but in the scheme of things, it might be. I mean, I have to keep telling myself, oh, yeah, that's the hybrid. Okay, yeah, got it. It's different than the ST, and I know I always come back to the ST, and you always come back to a T.
Yes.
Like, we have our favorites, and for some reason, they stick out in our memory, which is tough to do when there are 20-plus variants of the 911 available. You know
why the Carrera T is probably my favorite in the lineup?
Why?
Because I have never driven the ST.
That's going to change. We need to get this to happen.
Well,
Surely
you
have a friend who has one.
No, I do have a friend who has one, and he's offered to let me drive his. And I'm going to take him up on that. But there is one other point with the T versus the ST that I've been thinking about a lot more lately, and that is usable power. The Carrera T, I think it's a sweet spot. It's like a little under 400 horsepower, almost there. They did some lightweighting to it. It's got the short throw shifter. It's so engaging, and I can make it a ton of fun on the Bronx River Parkway. I can take it to Bear Mountain and have an amazing time ringing it out. Obviously I'm not doing 9/10, but I'm revving it up. And in the ST, I would love to hear your take, but I know Magnus told me driving down the Angeles Crest, like it's just so fast. You can't get there on a U.S. road.
I'm thinking, I don't know if Magnus was talking about the ST because we haven't had that in the Crest. Did he tell you?
No, maybe he wasn't. Maybe I'm mistaken. But what do you think about that? I mean, the idea is that these cars are too fast to really have fun unless you're on a track.
Okay, I had the ST up in like Napa Valley, close to San Francisco, winding around up there, both on very curvy roads and on some open highway. And in general, I'm not a professional driver, so I'm not getting 100% out of any car. That's the truth.
Me too.
I am not Sonny Hayes and Joshua Pierce from F1 driving.
I'm not even a very good driver.
The thing about the ST is it made me feel like I was. It made me feel like I was an exceptional driver, and it made me feel like I was ringing it out. And it was so fun. It did make me feel like I was getting all of the car. I know I wasn't, but I felt like I was. Yes, that's different than something like, you know, some of the upper level Ferraris or Lamborghinis or anything else you might want to throw in there that, I know I'm getting like half of what the car's offering. You know what? So I would say I felt like I got all of the ST. I got what I wanted.
That's what you want. That's what you want.
Yeah. I mean, I know I didn't, but it made me feel like I was. It's great. You got to drive it.
I would love to drive it. I want to get to Tony Roma because
please.
I did spend last week driving the CT-5V Blackwing, and I feel a little bit guilty about being so effusive about how much I loved it, and so sort of. Why
do you feel guilty, Matt?
I don't know, because I want to be more skeptical, and you're so good at that. And
I'm skeptical of everything.
And you know, when I'm talking to him, I'm just like fanboy. I can't believe I'm finally getting to drive this car that I've been reading about and lusting after for so long. And it was a truly amazing experience. I was trying to think of negatives before we go into the interview that I could point out. I just really can't. The one thing I get stuck on is he talks about the precision, and this car did have the extra $20,000 precision package. And to me, the exciting thing about it is that it didn't have the precision of the M5, you know? It gets a little bit squirrely when you try and put down all the power to the two rear wheels right away.
Like you're fighting the car a bit?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's a conversation.
I will say again that I'm not a very good driver. So for me, yes.
Most people aren't. Most people aren't good drivers.
I loved that. Like, I get a little bit scared when I was really pushing it in this car.
Like it's making you work a little bit.
Exactly. And to me,
engaged.
that was just the most fun. The other, there wasn't really anything else I didn't love about it, except for when you're changing lanes and you put on a turn signal, it has the yellow thing in the mirror, you know, that shows a blinking turn signal.
Yes.
I like that.
Okay.
But the problem is, if there's a car in your blind spot, it puts up another yellow sign right next to the yellow thing that shows you your turn signals on. And I found it hard to differentiate between the two exact same color yellow lights. So every time I'm changing lanes,
it freaks you out that you're about to hit.
Is it something in my blind spot? Because it's yellow and
This seems to be a thing with GM because this week I've got the optic, the Cadillac optic, and it has the same issue. And it's interesting that you point that out because I've noticed it, but I haven't really articulated it to myself. But you're right. It is a little bit disconcerting because it's exactly like you say. You could be making a completely fine pass or just lane change, but it makes you think you're about to hit someone that's in your blind spot when that may not be the case. Or it might be.
Right, exactly. So every time I was a little bit hesitant.
Yes.
And that does take the fun out of it.
I did find myself physically turning my head and looking over my shoulder, old school, to make sure there was nobody back there because I started to not trust the little indicator because it's like the boy who cried wolf. There were so many times that it was yellow, I just stopped trusting it and physically looking. Which you should probably do anyway.
You should, but...
But the thing is, if you're already tracking who's on the road in your side mirrors and your rear view mirror, you have a pretty good idea of who's there most of the time.
Well, with that out of the way, let's get to our interview with General Motors engineer, Corvette boss, Tony Roma. Tony, I am just moved by this Cadillac CT-5V Blackwing. I mean, it's a visceral experience in a very different way than like a BMW M5. For a sedan, it's just amazing, and the fact that you've been able to keep a manual transmission in this car, I believe it's the only V8 sedan in the world with a manual transmission. I think it's the fastest car in the world that has a manual transmission. How was it possible? How did you do it?
Yeah, I appreciate all the accolades. That's the way we talk about the car. So it's good that you are picking up on what we're doing. I'd say a long time ago, we stopped, to be honest, benchmarking a lot of our competitors. It was really when we started on the CT5 during the generation where we had the last gen of the CTS-V out. Everybody was going all-wheel drive. They were making their cars a little bigger, a little heavier. And we really said, hey, that's not the character we want. We want that precise, nimble, more driver engaged feel. And the manual trans is such a big part of that. Even though it doesn't make the car absolutely faster, as you know, there's just no replacement for that connection that you get your whole body into driving the car. So it's really, we are building cars that we want to drive. And I think, you kind of referenced that a lot of our competitors have gone away and they build certainly super fast cars. But I prefer what we drive. And I think it really is more comparable to maybe a couple of generations ago from some of our competitors.
So what's the waiting list like? Are you seeing high demand?
We see very high demand, and we especially see demand for the higher optioned cars. The cars are coming in very, very well equipped. Pretty much if you want one, you can get one. We sell out very quickly with our special editions. Last year we did a special edition that had like blue carbon and it was gorgeous. And we used this really cool metal forming technology to put a graphic in the door, really, really making a special piece. We made a run last year, and we're getting ready to potentially do it again, where we let you choose the color of your car and customize a couple of things on the interior. Our customers just eating that up. So really, it's a paradigm shift for us, how high up the price ladder our customers really want to go. In like the third gen reign, it was a little more budget minded. Now everybody wants every car dripping with carbon and just completely decked out, which is awesome. And we want to build them that way. So, but if you really wanted a CT5, you can probably find one out there somewhere.
And now you have the one I'm driving now has this precision package. So I think it's an $18,000 option, which changes the suspension, dials it in more for, I suppose, track use, but I'm using it on, the Bronx River Parkway. And you've got the carbon ceramic brakes, which are incredible. I don't know if it's necessary for a street car, but how do you think about the evolution of this? It was once less than $100,000. Now it's $120 with that package, and it climbs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that's a great example of what I just talked about, how the appetite for our customers for more, those were things in the tuning and the cup tires were all part of is that really what our customers want? And can we demand that much price? And it's been a resounding yes. And that whole project, the precision package, came from the idea that we love the precision of the CT4, but we love the isolation from the CT5 Blackwing. And, kind of internally, we always said, boy, wouldn't it be cool if we can make a CT5 Blackwing as precise and nimble as the CT4 Blackwing? So we set our super talented vehicle integration and vehicle dynamics crew to work. And they rose to the challenge. I think you would agree pretty well. The car is amazing. It's so sharp. It's so precise. It doesn't beat you up. It's incredible. And yes, it's kind of overkill on the street, but some people like overkill. I
have to say,
that's what you want,
Tony, to me, it's, of course, it's blisteringly fast and you put it wherever you want it, but it also there's a little bit of pucker factor, there's just, because it's rear wheel drive and it's throwing almost 700 horsepower to those wheels, you have to be paying attention to drive this car. It's not something that you necessarily want to put on autopilot, although you do have like an autopilot function available. And that's what makes me really fall in love with it. And it's become not just the interior is amazing to me. It's so elegant. There's nothing more than what you need, but everything that you do need. And now I'm starting to fall in love with the design, which I hadn't been convinced on before. Like the exterior now is starting to get me. I sit in my driveway and just look at it. So I think you've just nailed it on every conceivable level with that car. And I'm just surprised that more people don't talk about it and that you don't have like years-long waiting lists. And Is there some kind of cap on the production because of the emissions? It's a supercharged 6.2 liter V8, right?
Yeah, without going too deep in the weeds, we would be capped if we really tried to make kind of as many as we wanted, but we're running at about what we think customer demand is. I wouldn't say that we're artificially lowering things very much. But we would if we got a huge surge in demand, 5 times as many people walked in and wanted them. We'd have to start making decisions on portfolio level, but that's not where we're at right now. And everything you said about the car is just spot on. It's that bimodal character the car has. It's comfortable and quiet when you want to use Super Cruise and just go to work and just chill. And then as soon as you're on some kind of road that can take it and you want to twist a little bit or put that power down, it does it with confidence. But I agree with your comment. It's not the kind of car you just mail it in and just get ham-fisted and stand on it. And that's part of it. That's part of what we like about it. It's a driver's car.
Tony, I have to ask if, we're talking about how amazing this Blackwing is. Take rate is 50-50 manual, which is like wildly high. Why can't you put a manual in a Corvette? I mean, if it's that popular and that great, why not just transition it over into the real beauty of the lineup?
Yeah, I've obviously gotten that question before, and so did Taj and Josh Holder before me.
We asked Mark Royce
the
also.
Shortest version. Yeah, okay, Mark. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people get this question, and so I'll give you my version of the answer. As you guys both know, that we work in a very capital intensive industry, and when you work on these rear wheel drive cars, or even when we had the transmission in the rear like C7. We've got that beautiful Tremec TR6060 transmission that's been around for a long time and slowly developed into the beautiful thing that it is. There's no way to adapt anything like that to the back of a C8. The dimensions of that car are very much set up by the rear face of case to the half shaft dimension of our DCT. And I mean, making a brand new, we'd have to make a brand new transmission from scratch. And that would easily be $100 million project. And everybody says they want the manual transmission. And yes, it's 50-50 penetration on a 2,000 a year CT-5 Blackwing, but it wouldn't be anywhere near 50% on a 40,000 a year Corvette. And the business case just frankly doesn't make sense. So the team decided on the right path, and we made a fantastic dual clutch transmission that tames the beast of 1,064 horsepower. And I'm proud of it, and I think we made the right choice. And so I am a card-carrying manual trans driver. It's painful for me to give you this answer, just like it's painful for you to hear. But that's the truth.
It's actually, to me, it's not as bad. And that's weird because I'm also such a purist normally in terms of I want a manual transmission. I want to be really involved in driving the car. But for some reason, I don't need it in the Corvette. I have a blast in the Stingray. I love the E-Ray, especially for some reason.
About that, yeah.
The Z06 is like mind blowing. Just the engine alone. I haven't driven the ZR1, but obviously it's going to be a cruise missile. We need to. But the thing is, what is your favorite of the Corvettes? Because you have those 4 different offerings now, and also, I wonder what is your take as, I guess, sort of an automotive purist as well on the E-Ray, because I think it's the most underrated of them, and it's just so cool to feel that acceleration with the electric motor on the front axle.
Yeah, there's like 3 solid questions in there, so I'll
sorry.
answering them right. So that's okay. No, I'll give you the patent answer that my mentor John Heinrich always used to say. His favorite Corvette is the next one he's working on. Right. So that's sort of where my head is. That's my politically correct answer.
Wait, what is the next one you're working on?
Yep, we'll talk about that someday. I promise. My answer is I think the Z06 is the spiritual center of the Corvette portfolio. That is the most pure essence of Corvette. The ZR1 is just fantastic. It's so fast. And now the ZR1X that folks haven't really had a chance to sample does things that just it takes everything you love about the E-Ray, all the things you were talking about the E-Ray, which to that point, I agree, is kind of like the best kept secret in the auto industry right now. The E-Ray, we talk to a lot of folks that are sort of negative on all this electrification stuff, and we have to convince them, no, I promise. It's not gimmicky. We didn't just do this to do it. Go drive it. It's fantastic. And then they usually come back and go, oh my God, it's great. So I love the way we used electrification on the E-Ray and now on the ZR1X. And I think when you guys get a chance to sample that, it's so fast. It's just incredible. But to me,
This is,
if I'm going to go out and enjoy driving the cars, go ahead. Sorry.
My memory. I was just going to say the ZR1, it's like over 1,000 horsepower, more than 800 foot-pounds of torque. Just for our listeners, so
yeah,
they know this is the top.
ZR1 is 1,064 horsepower. Yeah, exactly. And then the ZR1X is the one we just introduced. That's 1,250 horsepower. We upgraded the the state of charge on the res and the front axle to get a little more than the rated power on the E-Ray. So everybody was expecting the straight math addition of the E-Ray front axle with the 1,064, and we kind of delayed it and surprised and overachieved a little bit. So 1,250 horsepower with all that front grip, it's just incredible. I mean, it's under 9 seconds in the quarter mile on a street legal car with a warranty is something honestly never thought I'd see in my lifetime. It's mind bending. I mean, we had to get special permission to go to a drag strip to certify the numbers to run at a drag strip. We had to get a special insurance rider and other stuff. So just to do it, because none of our customers are going to be able to do it. Anything over 150 miles an hour, everybody's insurance will require you to have a parachute and all that other stuff. So it's pretty nuts.
Tony, what's it like to be a part of building that kind of beast? I always think of the people that build these iconic vehicles, right? It's like the guy who was the architect on the Empire State Building, except for you have to go and visit that, and this can drive around. You could see it roll by you. How amazing is it to be a part of this whole thing?
Yeah, it's just. It's amazing.
How did you get here? Maybe is a better question, Tony. What did you do? Like, where did you go to school? What cars did you like when you were a kid? What drove you to this place?
Oh, okay, sure. I can give you the quick version of this. So I fell in love with cars a long time ago. Everybody's got a quick Corvette story. Mine was my uncle's 1971 big block convertible. We used to cruise around over by Jamestown, New York, rural back roads, and the sound of a big block with the top down is just, if that doesn't fuel your soul, you're in the wrong business, right? I went to engineering school in Detroit at Lawrence Tech, got a master's degree at Purdue. I started basically on the Corvette group at GM working on automatic transmissions back in 1993. And over time, worked my way into engine development and then got some advice from my mentors to say, look, you need to go round out your background if you want to come back and be a part of the leadership team on Corvette. And so that's what I did. I jumped over at a great opportune time when we started on V Series to tie these two discussions together. So I worked on the first generation CTS-V. I worked on it before we called it V. We didn't know what we were going to call it. We just knew we were doing a hot rod version of the first gen CTS. And I worked with the race team back then because we raced the car that we were making as we were developing it. And through a couple of other moves, I got promoted to be the chief on Alpha, which is the architecture the CT5 and CT4 come off of. That was a little over 10 years ago. And then just last year when Taj retired through an interview process, I kind of won the lottery and I get to come home. And like you said, I look at it exactly like you said it, like how fortunate am I to be part of this team that makes these mind-bending cars. And it's truly the A-team, not just a GM, but in the industry. If you look at all of our development engineers, the vehicle architects, the safety folks, just everybody, the folks in Bowling Green that build the car, we work with the best people around, and their attitude is, how can we do this? And that's what it takes to make cars like this. It's awesome.
By the way, so there's a movie by Dak Shepard that I always reference called Hit and Run. Bradley Cooper's in it as well. He drives the CTS-V. I think the bad guy has a C6 Corvette. There's like a Pontiac in it as well. Did you work with those guys to make that happen? I always wonder how, car makers get their vehicles in productions, and this one seems particularly GM heavy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't back then. That's a good question. We have a group of folks that work with producers and folks in the movie industry, and our marketing team kind of decides where would be good product placements. And so sometimes we do get the call, hey, they want a car to do X, Y, or Z. But in that case, I had nothing to do with that.
All right, one more on. I just have one more on Corvette because I know you want to get to Celestiq, and we don't have a ton of time, but I have a buddy, Tony, who has a C6 and he has a Blackwing, and the family car is like a Tahoe. he desperately wants a Corvette SUV. Can you give us any news on the potential of that? And I also said, like, wouldn't that just be a rebodied Acadia? And he was like, no, they're going to do something completely different. It's going to be totally Corvette.
I'm not going to give you any news. My answer will disappoint you wholeheartedly. But I will tell you, we continue to look at the market and opportunities, white space on the board, if you will. Where could we place a product that wouldn't cannibalize other things in our portfolio? And if we can do a vehicle that would have the right credibility to put some cross flags on it, and the time is right, I would never say never, but right now, never. not now. How about that?
That's good. It's a bummer.
That's good enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I do want to ask about Celestiq, because obviously this whole conversation we've spoken about cars that are really known for, engaging driving, and Celestiq is a completely different animal. When you and I spoke, and I don't know if I told you this at the time, but I thought it drove amazing. Especially considering its weight and dimensions, its length especially. Can you just tell us what it was like to go from developing these very, driver-centric cars to a luxury EV that, I don't want to say it's not driver-centric, because I actually thought it drove great, but it's a different animal.
Yeah, I appreciate your comments. That's what we were going for. We want a car that is surprising, and I was explaining to another journalist, we want a car that's good at everything you ask it to do. So if you want to cruise to work and just be quiet, it's an EV, it's going to be quiet, turn on the Dolby Atmos, chill, maybe do a phone call, whatever. All the road noise cancellation, all the insulated glass, all that stuff kind of shines. Like we sent you folks on that ride, if you want to go, and I remember talking to you, you're like, I just drove Angela's Crest like 2 days ago in a Porsche. Are you sure you want me to do this? And I said, yes, I am sure. And
Very
you kind of gave me the side look like, okay. And you came back and said, wow, that was kind of cool.
Awesome.
And that's exactly what we're looking for. And look, a Celestiq's never going to be your first choice to go drive a road like that on a beautiful Saturday day. But it'll do it. And that was part of the mission statement from the beginning. It had to kind of do everything well and have that bimodal character. And the technology that we chose really just enabled all of that. The active roll control, the rear steer, the MR dampers, air springs, all of that kind of comes together to make that car drive so much lighter and more nimble and athletic than you would ever dream that a car that big and those proportions. But I think that's part of, to me, what makes the Celestiq special is because when you look at the car with how low and how crazy the proportions are, man, you kind of wish that it would back that up. And then it does. And you go, wow, okay, it's not just a pretty face. It's got some moves. And at the very beginning of Celestiq, the discussion with Mark Royce was essentially, hey, we don't want a gimmicky EV at the top of the lineup. We want a great car that happens to be propelled by electricity. And so that was our guiding light, and I think we did it. And so it's a beautiful car that happens to be an EV that drives fantastic.
What was the biggest fight you had with the designers? Because I always sense that the engineers and the designers have a special relationship. Can you give us some insight about what you fought over?
Yeah, Celestiq is unique in anybody's career in the industry. The designers really, from minute one, the goal was make the show car. And we talked about that with you guys at the press show. And so we started with a sketch that represented the design language and the proportions. We scaled it up to be big enough to fit people. We built a show car that was basically the design folks telling us what they wanted with very loose kind of guidelines. I'll use the word cheated. They cheated up a couple of the, guidelines. And then the answer was, okay, how can we do that? And so that was our challenge. And really, I'll tell you, we had a lot of really passionate discussion on Celestiq. I'm not going to lie, both sides. Most of it, honestly, was we just can't do that. It wasn't, we don't want to do that. We can't afford to do that. We'd rather not do that. It wasn't, so that makes Celestiq a little different. Most programs you work on, it's, well, yeah, I know the blah, 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 really expensive car does this crazy little thing here, but there's no way we can afford that. Look at how much it costs. on Celestic, it was like, okay, we'll go find out what those people are doing and call the suppliers. And we reached out to everybody all over the world and came up with, I think it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 200 patents on our own. Some of the stuff we loaned our intellectual property to others to make the actual parts. Some of it was software and things we did ourselves. So I can't remember any big, like, oh my gosh, that argument was defining for the car, but there was certainly a lot of passion on both sides. And I think you saw the relationship that Aaron and Michael Simcoe and I still have to this day. And I honestly feel that that's a testament to, as a team, the fact that we still go and hang out and, have a drink and enjoy what we created together. I think it speaks volumes. And that's not just me, it's the whole engineering team, but I'm the one there at the press show, right?
Tony, so much gratitude from my side for your time. I really appreciate you making this work, because I know you're traveling, you're busy, you've got a lot going on. So thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Good talking to you.
I can't believe there's not going to be a Corvette SUV like anytime soon. I
know.
I thought this was something they were working on, and
you've been talking about it and sort of asking about it for a long time because it's been in the ether.
Yeah. Well, I obviously have a crush on, the Blackwing and the Corvettes, and I just feel like General Motors is doing everything right. And I was excited to have a Corvette like Cayenne, because it's been such a huge money spinner for Porsche.
I know. I mean, the thing that I always sort of gave me pause, though, was what Ford did with Mustang, how they turned that into...
But that's not even an SUV. That's like a little hatchback. The Mustang...
That is... What?
The Mach-E Mustang?
Yeah, that's not a little hatchback. That is an SUV. That is not small. I was following one the other day, and...
Well, when I sit in one with my 6'3", 210-pound frame... It does not feel like a big SUV.
It's a compact SUV.
Yeah.
All that to say, I don't think it looks good. I don't think it's interesting. So why would you ruin the Mustang name by slapping it on that?
I tend to agree with you, although Jim Farley, when he was talking with Jay Leno, I guess Jay Leno, when he was talking with Jim Farley, was defending it, saying that they make the Mach-E so that they can still put a stick shift in a Mustang with a V8.
Sure, but then why not make it good? If you're going to make it.
Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe they'll come out with another one, like 2.0 version that's better.
We've heard this from Porsche and other automakers. We make X so we can give you Y. This is a common thing.
But some people love it. Matt Farah had a Mach-E for like 3 years and loved it, right? Or is he paid to say that?
You'll have to ask Matt.
I don't know. Yeah, we should. I would love to have Matt on here, and
we should have him on.
He would have to keep the profanity to a minimum.
Yeah, right.
Well, I'm going to go see this movie right now, Hannah.
I can't wait to hear what you think.
And I appreciate you.
Likewise,
We've done a lot of really great work together lately.
I know. I'm so proud of it, and it's been honestly a true joy.
It has been. Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone who listens. If you want to write in, our email address is hotpursuit@bloomberg.net. I'm Matt Miller.
And I'm Hannah Elliott. And this is Bloomberg.